nitel b'mikdash shiva. In the beginning, there was a mitzvah by the Beit HaMikdash. There's a mitzvah to take the lulav for 7 days. It means every day of the holiday, there was a mitzvah of taking the lulav of the mikdash. Now, outside the mikdash, if you weren't by the mikdash, then the mitzvah to take the lulav was just the first day on a Torah level. That was the original law regarding the lulav in the time when there is a Beit HaMikdash. But what happened when the mikdash was destroyed? Mishacharav Beit HaMikdash, again, lulav 41a, the Mishnah. In the beginning, there was a mitzvah to take the lulav all 7 days by the mikdash. And by the Medina, if outside the mikdash, there's a mitzvah of Yom Echad. There's 1 day, there's a mitzvah. The first day of the holiday is the mitzvah. And the first day of the holiday is the only biblical obligation of lulav is outside the mikdash. It's only 1 day, the first day. Then what happened was Mishachara Beit HaMikdash, when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, Hitkin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Yochanan ben Zakkai said, you know what, we got to remember the mitzvah that there was at the time of the Mikdash. Hitkin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Sheyehei Lulav, Nital b'Medina, that the lulav should be taken in the Medina, outside in the Medina, that means in Yerushalayim and the rest of the world, Shiva. For 7 days, Zeichel HaMikdash. He wanted that we should go ahead and remember the Mikdash, not to forget about the mitzvah, to think about the Beit HaMikdash, looking forward to the Beit HaMikdash being rebuilt in the future, where we'll have the mitzvah again by the Mikdash for 7 days. And therefore, he went ahead and he instituted that we remember the mitzvah that there was at the time when there was a Beit HaMikdash. Now, the Rambam, the question is, when we say that the mitzvah was by the Mikdash for 7 days, what does the Mikdash, what is the area of the Mikdash? So Rashi says the Beit HaMikdash, and outside the Beit HaMikdash would be there's no mitzvah for 7 days to take the lulav. Yerushalayim, meaning Yerushalayim, the fact that you lived in Yerushalayim, you did not have the mitzvah for 7 days of taking lulav in Yerushalayim. There's a special mitzvah if you go to the Mikdash. That would be the mitzvah, not in Yerushalayim. However, the Rambam holds that Yerushalayim itself, the whole Yerushalayim, it would seem from the Rambam that there would be a mitzvah to go ahead and take the lulav all 7 days in Jerusalem. And that would seem to be the Rambam's understanding. That's just an interesting, very interesting machloket between the Rambam and Rashi. Okay.
So one more time, if you're in Yerushalayim, you had to take it there 7 days. If you're out of Yerushalayim,
according to the Rambam, if you're in Yerushalayim, there's a mitzvah of 7 days of taking the lulav,
right?
And outside Yerushalayim, there's only a mitzvah the first day of taking the lulav.
But there's no taking it to the Beit HaMikdash, obviously.
No, but I'm saying, according to the Rambam, you don't need to.
You only have to use it 1 day.
Again, according to the Rambam, if you're in Yerushalayim, there's a mitzvah for there's 7 days of the mitzvah in Yerushalayim. In Yerushalayim, and certainly if you're by the Beit HaMikdash area, there's a mitzvah. But right. According to the other commentaries, it's just the mitzvah. It's only by the Beit HaMikdash area would there be. And again, that also would have to be defined, what's called Beit HaMikdash area. But the Beit HaMikdash, by the Beit HaMikdash, there's the mitzvah of 7 days. There's no mitzvah if you live in Yerushalayim, you live in the old city, you're not by the Beit HaMikdash, There's no mitzvah to take the lulav for 7 days over there. That would be the other commentaries. So
So it's a smaller area. They're not agreeing on the area.
they're not agreeing on the area, exactly. The Rambam gives you a much larger area where the mitzvah of 7 days would apply throughout the Yerushalayim. Throughout Yerushalayim, there'll be a mitzvah of 7 days of taking the lulav. According to the Rambam, and according to everybody else, it's just by the Beit HaMikdash there'll be this.
Outside of Yerushalayim, they both agreed that it's 1 day only.
Right, yes, outside Yerushalayim. Even when the Beit HaMikdash is built, everybody would agree only 1 day. The only 1 day would be the mitzvah. Like today, we don't have the Beit HaMikdash, so everybody, so the mitzvah is 1 day. And
it's 1 day Doraita.
1 day Doraita, and the other days are
Rabbanan.
As Zeichal HaMikdash, Mitzvah Rabbanah. So, Mr. Haber, the location is a key, because the question is because the pasuk says, Rashi had brought a pasuk that the pasuk talks about Samachtem L'fnei Hashem Shivat Yamim, talks about the idea of 7 days L'fnei Hashem. So I presume the question is, was that referring to the L'fnei Hashem? Is that referring to specifically the Beit HaMikdash? L'fnei Hashem is Yerushalayim. It's included in that is Yerushalayim. So the question is, it's the understanding of the pasuk when the pasuk talks about the 7 days of. I mean, everybody agreed that the time of the Beit HaMikdash by the Mikdash is 7 days of taking the lulav by the Mikdash, by the Beit HaMikdash. But the question is how, when the Torah when the pasuk that was written, it talks about this mitzvah of 7 days, how do you understand the pasuk? Is it specifically referring to the Mikdash, or it's referring to the whole? It's talking about the whole Yerushalayim. So that is the machloket, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai wanted us to remember the Mikdash, and therefore he made this takana. He made many takanot. And this is one of his takanot that he made, that you should take the lulav for 7 days when the Beit HaMikdash. Everybody, wherever you are in the world, you're in Bavel, you're wherever you're in Alaska, you're in America, you have a mitzvah of 7 days, and therefore, by the way, that explains a lot about we found differences between the first day and the other days. Let's say the first day we said it has to belong to you. The lulav has to be yours. You can't borrow, right? Because it says, there's that pasuk says Lakachtem lachem bayom harishon. There's a pasuk that said you have to take bayom harishon, the first day, and there it says lachem, it has to be yours, and therefore it excludes if it's borrowed. If you don't have your own lulav, they could gift it to you. Good morning, Mark. So therefore we're dealing with two psukim. We're dealing with a pasuk that says that talks about the first day, Lakachtem lachem bayom harishon, and therefore we see there's something the Torah is signaling out. There's something unique about the first day compared to every other day. And then there's another pasuk that says there's a 7 day period. Right. So the takana was, we want to remember, everybody should remember what they did in the Mikdash, and therefore he says wherever you are in the world, you have to take the lulav 7 days. Right? That's what we do today. And I was just saying, because we're dealing with two psukim in the Torah. One pasuk in the Torah talks about Lakachtem lachem biyom harishon. It says you should go ahead and take for yourself on the first day. So the Torah is giving a special significance, special focus on the first day. 41a. 41a in the art scroll. What is it? 41a what? 2? 41a2. So the Torah, so we have two psukim in the Torah. One pasuk says Lakachtem lachem biyom harishon. It tells us the special law, this biblical law, which this pasuk applies for today as well. Morning, Jaime.
Morning, Rabbi.
Morning. We have two psukim in the Torah. One pasuk. Morning. One pasuk says Lakachtem lachem bayom harishon. One pasuk says you have to take the lulav on the first day of the holiday. That's it. The Torah doesn't say take it on every day. So therefore, who's that talking to? That's talking to the people who live, that's talking to a certain group of a certain situation. And then there's another pasuk that says, but we have this smachtem lifnei Hashem Elokechem shivat yamim. There's a mitzvah of 7 days in front of Hashem. So what's that in front of Hashem? Lifnei Hashem that's referring to. So that 7-day mitzvah, some say it's referring to the Lifnei Hashem is the Beit HaMikdash. It's a 7-day mitzvah. Well, Lifnei Hashem means the whole Yerushalayim is called in front of Hashem when you're in Yerushalayim. So that's the argument whether the mitzvah of 7 days is specific for the Beit HaMikdash area or the whole Jerusalem. But no, everybody agrees. Again, everybody. The argument between the Rambam and Rashi is geographically how far this 7-day mitzvah is it limited to Beit HaMikdash as a 7-day mitzvah? Right, there's a mitzvah. There's a 7-day mitzvah. And the question is, where is this 7-day mitzvah? Is it by the Beit HaMikdash only, or also by the whole Jerusalem? But everybody agrees outside Jerusalem, there's only a 1-day mitzvah of the lulav. Okay, so now, and then that was the first takana. We need to remember, and the Gemara is going to talk about the importance of remembering the Mikdash. And therefore, everybody remembers the Mikdash, and therefore we all take the lulav for 7 days. Now, then the next thing that he instituted. Shehei Yom Henef Kulo Asa. The day of the waving of the Omer, that whole day should be forbidden from eating the new crop. Now, what does that mean exactly? There's something called Chadash. If you go to a pizza shop, they'll say Yashan. You have a sign say that the food is Yashan. What is Yashan? Yashan means old. So the Torah says that on the 2nd day of Pesach, which is the 16th day of Nisan, you bring something called the Korban Omer. It's a korban. This is food made from barley food, and you bring it to the Beit HaMikdash. And the reason why the Sefer Chinuch says it's made from this offering, is from barley, because when we came out of Egypt, we didn't receive the Torah yet. We were in a certain sense, our level was like an animal in a certain sense. Not having Torah, that's how the Sefer Chinuch says. And barley is more of a common food for animals. By the time we received the Torah on Shavuot, then the korban is made from wheat, which is a human food. We transferred as a result of getting the Torah. We transferred from that animalistic part of us. We became that which had more dominant, and therefore became human beings, the way human beings are supposed to act. And that's the Torah. And this korban, was brought on the 16th day of the 2nd day of Pesach. And the Torah says you cannot eat from any crop that, let's say, took root from the last year, from last Pesach, which is new, until this year, Morning Morris, you can only eat from the new crop only if once this korban was brought. That's what Yashan from. That's what Yashan. This is the source of Yashan. Yashan means you need to eat the old. You have to have the old crop. You can't have. That means to say. Let's say right now, Pesach was a number of months ago. Pesach, let's say, was 10 months ago. Let's say. So since Pesach, if they planted anything since Pesach, and it took root post Pesach, that's called new crop. Anything that was planted, let's say in May, or by May, maybe by May it already took root, or even maybe if it was even planted before May, if it only took root after Pesach, that's called anything that took root. Now, anything that took root before the previous Pesach, before last year's Pesach, is old stuff.
Rabbi, it's basically saying last season's produce.
Right, it's basically saying now what's called last season? Last season anything that was after last Pesach is new. Meaning from between this Pesach and this and last Pesach and this Pesach, everything is new, and anything that was planted post Pesach, took root post Pesach, is forbidden. Any grain, 5 grains, wheat, barley, oats, spelt, and rye, any of those grains that were planted post Pesach, and they grew very fast, and they're ready in the field, and they're ready in the market. We're not allowed to eat that food. Now, everybody agrees that would apply in the Holy Land. If you're living in the Holy Land, or it's a product from the Holy Land that was planted post Pesach, and now I want to eat it, everybody agrees I can't eat it. The issue is products that grew outside the land of Israel. That will be the main discussion in halacha. What do we say today regarding foods that were grown here in the United States of America? Will we be strict about those foods the same way we're strict about the foods that will be grown in the land of the grains that are grown in the land of Israel? So that's the whole halachic discussion. And many people are careful about it. Many people are not as careful about it. People rely on the leniencies that maybe it's only in the land of Israel and the close countries that are next to the land of Israel that prohibition that the rabbis would say would be forbidden, but not if you live far away from Israel. So that's a whole discussion regarding whether halachically how it affects us today. That's why many people are careful about. If you see bread mak yashan, you're feeling all up in. Right, commercial bread OU. I don't think that the OU is particular about the yashan. That I would doubt it. If we get it to find out, they could call the OU 212-563-4000, and they could tell me. They talk to the rabbi there. They gave the number. You have to know the number. Rabbis need to know such a number. It's an important number to know for rabbis, right? Sometimes they say American Express card, don't leave home without it. So certain things you gotta have. Yeah, yes. I have some colleagues there that work in the OU, the fish department, other departments. What? Oh, very good. So we're gonna very good. We're gonna get very good, very good. So therefore, when Pesach, when you once, let's say today, outside the land of Israel, so once the 17th day, let's say 16th, 17th, once the 18th day of Nisan comes, let's say, make it simple. By the time Pesach is over, there's no issue of Yashan, because everything that you have, any food that you'll have now was definitely from last year's crop. You didn't plant anything after. Nothing happened by the time Pesach is over in a couple of days. Now you only have to start worrying about it maybe after Pesach. By the time, let's say they might have planted in May, June, July, August, maybe, how long it takes for a crop to.
6 months, you don't have to worry.
It's safe to, I don't know about 6 months, but definitely a certain amount of months you're good. It's only once you reach a certain point that at a time, let's say like Mark is saying, maybe when you start getting to Sukkot time, if they're ready, if the turnover of the crop is so good. I'm saying again, once Pesach comes in, there's no issue. But now you the Pesach Sukkot is a very good time. Now I would have to check up. There are actually Chadash, there are booklets on this that identify sometimes which crops, would have to see where, at what point you have to start being concerned. For the people that are concerned about it, is it already Sukkot? What's say? I don't know if there's different types of grains, but different products that, different companies that, however they work, so that is the issue here. But you should know, by the way, many years ago, I heard in the 1970s, we're not so on it. So you should know that many years ago in America in the 70s, in the 70s, there was a particular rabbi was asked, listen to this more. A particular rabbi was asked, do you keep Yashan? And the rabbi said that the way they're storing the food, they're not storing it properly, it's becoming infested. But Yashan means that it's older crop. So if he says, I'm more concerned about the issue of the bugs, and therefore because if it's old crop, that means let's say it's March time. So March time, I would have to use things that already, took root before last Pesach. That's a year old. And the way they stored food, now today it's 50 years later. You know what I'm saying? I think they store things much better. The things, and you see you look at a flour bag, you see the dates are long, you have long dates, the things stay, I'm not just using the story, say, okay, just rely on that, don't have to worry about Yoshan. But that's why many people were not so following that concern, because they were more concerned about the bugs if you store it now. So obviously people it has to be stored properly and so on. So that's, Right now, it's a year old. The stuff would have taken root before less Pesach in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Yoshan. It applies meaning every year you have the same issue. Exactly. So that is that is
the rabbi that mentioned that the bug and versus the Yashan more concerned, aren't they two competing deoraitas?
Very good. Great point, Jaime. The bugs, everybody agrees is D'oraita. Yoshan, there are opinions that say if you live far away from Israel, there's no issue. There are opinions, and those opinions, I'm going to read to you the Chafetz Chaim. Now, also, there's other reasons, Jaime, because there's something, it's a safek. The fact, let's say, if I'm not particular about it, is because I'm hoping there's also a safek that maybe the crop it's not from this year's crop. It's not that I definitely know. It's not that we definitely know. See, that's another thing that people realize. Again, number one, if you're far away from Israel, some say there's no issue. Number two is, who says this is Yashan? Who says this is Hadash? Who says that the food that I'm eating today in America is from the new crop? Today's day, it could be that it's from last year. So it's not even. So the Chafetz Chaim, I'm going to read to you the Chafetz Chaim. We don't know. We don't know. And that if you hold it right. So now the question is, you say, okay, Rabbi, you don't know, but maybe you should find out. Maybe in those days it's harder to find out. Again, it could be the right, meaning to answer Jaime's question, it could be the writer here in America, and it could not be the writer, meaning because some say there's no issue. So I'm going to read to you the Shulchan Aruch, the Rabbi Yosef Cairo, which is the Sephardi opinion. The Sephardi opinion says, Asur le'echel chadash af bizman hazeh. You're not allowed to eat chadash, even today, until the beginning of the 18th of Nisan. Why? Because outside of, same when we have 2 days of Yom Tov, so 2 days, again, you would have, in the time, 2 days Yom Tov, the 16th it's like the 17th. Therefore, after the 17th, after the 17th, you can already eat it. It's the 18th, and in Eretz Yisrael, the beginning of the 17th, you could start eating the new crop. But now, once that day has come, you can eat the new crop. Comes the Chafetz Chaim, and he says the following. That was Shulchan Aruch. That's Rabbi Yosef Cairo. That's the Sephardi. He's the Sephardi number one go-to, which he said there's a big issue. The issue of Chadash applies here in our days. That is the Sephardi opinion. Now, and again, he says, the Chafetz Chaim says it's only on the 5 species. And again, it's talking about anything that took root after last Nisan would be a problem until the next Nisan. Now, because the pasuk says, "B'chol moshvotechem," the pasuk says you should not eat bread until this day, until the Korban Omer was brought. in all your places of dwelling, which would imply b'chol moshvotechem sounds like all the places outside Gemoni, but outside of Israel as well. Now, in Yoredea, Ashkenaz rabbi, Rav Moshe Isserles, he says permitted it. He said you could, and outside of Israel, he permitted it. He said number one, because a svek sveka, if you have a double doubt, double safek. Number one, maybe the crop in front of you is from last year's crop. How do you know? Do you know? I mean, again, we're back in Europe. We're back in Prague. We're back in Eastern Europe. You come to the market. What? Let's say you're in March. Do you know in March? Do you know how long it took them to when this crop? There's no dates. There was no dates back then, and when the crop. See, today it's much easier to figure out. I presume in the manufacturer you have to put dates on things today. So in those days, there's no dates. We're 400, 500 years ago. There's no dates on foods. You don't know when this grain was rooted. Was it from last year? Was it post Pesach or from the previous or before that? You don't know when it's from.
Rabbi, what's the point of Safek Sveka? A double doubt.
So double doubt gives them, it's more likely, that creates more likely that it's permitted. You know, if you're using if you have
the
multiple,
principle of Safek Sveka is permitting.
I mean, usually when you say a svek sveka, usually it's more reasons, there's more doubts, and the fact there's more doubts that you could be used as to permit something.
Permission.
So it's number. I mean, sometimes it could be used in the other opposite. If it's more likely to be forbidden, that you use it.
What's the opposite of Safek Sveka?
I mean, it's svek sveka. I mean, suffix sveka means a double. Doubt to either leheter to permit something, or svek sveka to forbid something. But usually it's in the permitted way leheter. So here he says number one, the Chafetz Chaim says maybe it's from what? Maybe it's from last. It's from the previous year's crop. It's maybe it took root before past the last Pesach, right? I come to the market, I want to buy some grain, right? And I want to know, we have that issue of Chadash. Because the Torah says you can't eat the new grain. You can't eat it. You have to wait to eat the new grain until Pesach comes. Or until the second day of Pesach when they brought the Korban Omer. So now I go to the market. It's March. I'm going to the market. I want to know, can I eat this food? So he has two, you have Svek Sveka, which, by the way, Jaime, Svek Sveka makes it like, some learn it's like a roll. Now, the majority is telling you you're in the good, because it's more than 50% chance that right. That's right. So it's 50%, twice as Mark says. It's more likely. The majority tells us the odds are that it's good. So number one, maybe this crop is from before last Pesach. It's old crop, and even if it's from this year, he says, even if it's from this year. You see, I would say the second stuff that he says over here, even if it's from this year, maybe it took root before the Omer. That means maybe even if it grew during this year. So he's saying maybe even it grew during this year, but maybe it already rooted. Sometimes you have something that grows during this year, but if it took root before this year, it's meaning then the fact that you see it growing this year doesn't mean it didn't take root. It could have started before the previous year. Right. That's it's meaning right. So he's calling it too. I would have said the second suffix is. I would say the second suffix is maybe we hold like the opinions that there's no problem at all. Meaning, I would say the suffix is this way. Number one, maybe the food came from what? Oh, and even if it's new food, maybe we hold like maybe the halacha is like the opinions that say new food outside Israel is no problem. Outside, if you live far away from Israel, it's no problem. That one. Right. That's what I would say. Right. That's what I. Right. That's what I would have said. Now, he says. And then they talk about, by the way, in Poland, the wheat because he said the wheat in Poland, they're mostly planted in Cheshvan. They don't plant it right after Pesach. They're planting after Sukkot. Good morning, Aaron. You have no problem. You have no problem in Poland because the way they're not planting. So therefore, by the time that the food is going to be coming to the market, it's after Pesach. You don't have to worry about it. And it took root before Pesach. Therefore, they have no problem with the wheat. But the barley and the spelt and the oats, most of them are planted right after Pesach. Exactly. Different grains will be different. And he says, now, however, he says most of the world, the Chafetz Chaim writes, at least at that time, most of the world are lenient with Chadash. That's what he was writing. Again, a Sephardi opinion, you have to be strict. At least the Shulchan Aruch says that. We have to see more Sephardi opinions. And then he says, some want to give a schut. Some want to try to say something positive. Why are they doing this way? These are religious Jews. Why are they not being careful about this issue of grain that was rooted after last Pesach and eating that grain before the next Pesach? Why aren't they worried about this issue? So some say that since it's a very difficult situation, you need to have food, you need to eat, and they want to and because of that, they're relying on those opinions, those Rishonim that hold that the rabbis made a gzeirah, a rabbinic prohibition on lands close to Israel. That means on a Torah level, these opinions hold the land of Israel, you can't eat the new crop that was planted that took root post Pesach until the next Pesach. And the rabbi said lands that are near Israel, let's say like Egypt or Jordan, these places rabbinically is forbidden, but lands that are far, because if you're going to eat it over there, the new crop, they're going to come to eat the new crop that's within Israel itself. But lands that are far away from Israel, they didn't need to make it what? A gezerah. So therefore, that's why here in Poland, they're not worried that they're not near Israel.
Is it about, you said before, geographical climate? Like Poland's climate is very different. Jordan's climate and Israel's climate is the same.
It's not. It's how close they are. How close? Because when it's close. Okay. So you're saying maybe they're planting things similarly. Oh yeah. But here, okay, it could. But the main issue here is because interchangeable. If you're going to allow it here, if you allow it in Jordan and Egypt.
They don't say near.
Right, but here is this is one of there are some that understand it over here like that, and they say now, and some say there are those that have a different reason, because there are those opinions, good morning, that say that chadash is only by grain grown by a Jew. There are opinions that say that if the grain is grown by a non-Jew, there's no problem at all. It's a multiple suffix. It's another. So therefore, you have to tell the Jewish people, according to that, people who actually have their fields, those Jewish farmers, you got to tell them you have to be careful about the issue of chadash according to that opinion. He says, even though we don't have the power to protest the people against the people that are lenient, the Chafetz Chaim writes, but he says that a person, a Baal Nefesh, a person who's a person of a pious person should not rely on this is his opinion, should not rely on these leniencies, and he should be strict wherever it's possible for him to be strict, because he says there are many Rishonim that hold that it's a biblical prohibition under all circumstances, whether it's grown by a non-Jew, right? Whether it's grown by a non-Jew, we're talking about Chadash, the new crop that took fruit after Pesach, whether it's grown by a non-Jew, whether it's grown outside the land of Israel. There are many Rishonim that don't make all these differences. They say anywhere you are in Alaska, Chadash applies. Even though Christopher planted it, it's by a non-Jew, or so on and so forth. They say it's. I gave a class at Baruch College, and I once used Tony as an example of a non-Jew, and there was an Israeli in the class. Said his name was Tony. I never use the name Tony anymore. As Christopher, I'm pretty safe. But even though today it's said that Christopher could be Jewish because his mother Jewish, his father's a Gentile. But that's a different phenomenon. So that's what he said. And he says, so the Chafetz Chaim says, Chafetz Chaim talks about, he says, some say that, see, he says today that they use the trains. Chafetz Chaim writes, today the trains are running and they're bringing wheat from far off places. And we know that in Russia, there are many places in Russia that they plant the wheat in the summer. And therefore there is a problem because they're ready, and by the time March is coming, there's an issue. So he says, if you know that the flour came from there, you should be careful about it in the winter, because you know that it's a new crop. Okay, I want to wish everyone. Rabbi Feinstein, we have to see. I'm not sure about Rabbi Feinstein's opinion on this. We have to see. We know he kept Chalav Yisrael. That we know. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was very particular about Chalav Yisrael, even though he allowed the world not to keep Chalav Yisrael. You have OUD is not Chalav Yisrael, but he himself personally, he was more strict about it, even though he held that the law allowed you to have OUD, have some good Entenmann's donuts, and so. Yeah, it used to be. I don't know if it's still kosher, but it used to be kosher. It's still kosher, right? There was rumors that they were going to lose the supervision, but I think they made a whole thing, and I think they kept it. I think
Thank
so.
you, Rabbi.
They have a great day, everybody. You too.